Rescue efforts in southern Turkey and northern Syria continue as the death toll nears 10,000.
Russia warns of an unpredictable escalation to the war sparked by Western military aid to Ukraine.
Nationwide strikes in France have brought cities to a standstill and disrupted power production, the third round of protests against planned pension reforms.
Moldova's Prime Minister tells Euronews that her country is threatened by Russia's hybrid aggression.
Rescue efforts in southern Turkey and northern Syria following Monday's deadly earthquakes continued Tuesday night, but they have been hampered by freezing temperatures and damaged roads. The death toll continues to surge as more victims are found beneath the rubble. International aid is arriving, but getting machinery in to lift slabs of concrete is proving difficult, with roads blocked by rubble and vehicles. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has declared a 3-month state of emergency in 10 afflicted provinces to allow relief workers and financial aid into the stricken areas.
Bunun için zorunlu olmadıkça kimsenin deprem bölgesine giden ve deprem bölgesi içindeki yolları kullanmamasını, telefon görüşmelerinin de acil ihtiyaçlar dışında yapılmaması gerektiğini tekrar hatırlatıyorum.
Although assistance is slowly getting through to Turkey, the logistics and politics of aiding Syria, especially vulnerable areas in the northwest, are much more complicated. 11 years of civil war and international sanctions against the Assad regime are creating obstacles. The civil defence group known as the White Helmets, which is more used to searching bombed-out buildings, is spread very thin. It's shuttling its few available evacuators from one town to the next to respond to countless pleas for help. Syrians say they feel abandoned. One of the hardest hit areas is the Turkish city of Adana, home to some 1.7 million people. It lies 170 kilometres west of where the first quake struck. Our international correspondent Annalise Borges has this report.
Emergency responders have been working non-stop to try and get one more person out of the rubble, out of what is left of the building you see behind me here in central Adana. They have been working non-stop for the last 48 hours. Nobody here has gotten any sleep. This is very much a country in shock, still trying to come to terms with what hit them. Many people have been saying that they are angry that the rescue has been too slow to arrive in certain parts of southeastern Turkey, but authorities saying they're doing everything in their power to try and help. There are rescuers coming from other parts of the world as well. We saw emergency responders from Malaysia, Austria, the United States, France, and Russia arriving here in Adana, trying to lend a helping hand to Turkey in this that is the biggest tragedy to hit this country in decades. Annalise Borges in Adana, southern Turkey, for Euronews.
From an airbase in Sofia, it's wheels up for 12 Bulgarian Red Cross rescuers and 5 canine search specialists, dogs trained to sniff out survivors among the earthquake's devastation. But to get there, there'll be a chilly flight on the military plane.
Вече не знам колко слоя дрехи имам, но колкото и да е вече не е достатъчно. Слагаме колкото се може повече дрехи, защото температурите ще бъдат минусови за този 3-часов полет.
Time is of the essence on this mission.
Вече сме в самолета. Виждате, че точно до нас има автомобил на БЧК, който също ще бъде на място за труднодостъпни места. Вече сме в самолета. Коланите са доста странни, не са като обикновените пътнически авиолинии. Все още не знаем дори как да ги закопчаем.
Despite a snowstorm over Ankara, there was only light turbulence during their journey, enduring the noise and vibrations of the military plane. their destination in Adana, just 150 kilometers from the earthquake's epicenter. Bulgaria playing its part in an international rescue mission to help the people of Turkey and Syria.
За да проследим спасителните акции.
Fighting has intensified along the front line in eastern Ukraine. And in the recaptured city of Liman, there is a sense of unease because of talk of a new Russian offensive that could take place over the next couple of days.
Жизнь, конечно, очень тяжелая, потому что работы нет. Работы нет, понимаете, как на нервах, все в стрессе, все люди нервные.
The last 24 hours were the deadliest of the war for Russian troops, according to Ukraine, with more than 1,000 dead. But the figure is hard to verify. Meanwhile, Moscow is warning that promised Western weapons deliveries to Ukraine could escalate the conflict.
Соединенные Штаты Америки и их союзники пытаются максимально затянуть конфликт. Для этого они приступили к поставкам тяжелого наступательного вооружения. Открыто призывают Украину захватывать наши территории. Фактически такие шаги втягивают страны НАТО в конфликт и могут привести к непредсказуемому уровню его эскалации.
The latest top-level visit to Kyiv has been that of German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Berlin has announced that Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark will supply Ukraine with up to 178 older-generation Leopard 1 tanks to help Kyiv defend itself. These extra tanks, which were decommissioned by the German military 2 decades ago, will need to be modernized. En route from Spain are 20 M113 armored personnel carriers. They are being sent via cargo ship from Bilbao to a NATO base in Estonia and then delivered to the Ukrainian border.
Marching in the thousands. French residents are once again on the streets protesting against the controversial pension reform. President Emmanuel Macron's plans to make them work longer before retirement, bumping the age from 62 to 64. This third round of nationwide protests coinciding with the arrival of the bill to the National Assembly.
Sauf s'il est devenu vraiment totalement autoritaire. Dans une démocratie, à un moment donné, il faut bien que quelqu'un soit raisonnable. Et c'est forcément lui qui doit le devenir, puisque c'est lui qui a la responsabilité d'avoir créé de toutes pièces ce conflit.
Tuesday's protests brought major cities to a standstill, severely disrupting the public transport sector. But many users didn't mind.
On doit se mobiliser quand même, parce que là, je pense qu'on est dans une crise. Ça, c'est mondial. C'est même pas la France ou la Suisse ou l'Allemagne. C'est mondial. Après, c'est la période post-Covid, quoi. Donc, vu les conditions aussi, le problème d'énergie, donc il y en a beaucoup de choses à dire.
The strikes did not reach the magnitude of the past two, which managed to gather more than 1 million people. But the unions plan to do it all again, with another day of protests on Tuesday, the 14th of February.
7 months after the EU granted candidate status to Moldova, the Prime Minister is in Brussels. The visit on Tuesday comes after the European Commission proposed €145 million in new support funds for Chisinau. In an interview with Euronews, Moldova's Prime Minister said that her people are really feeling the impact of the war in Ukraine.
We're expecting growth of 5% in 2022, and instead we saw a decrease in economic growth by 5.5%. We have very high inflation, and, for example, the tariff for gas went up 7 times, the tariff for electricity went up 3 times, and although we have a targeted social assistance program, the bills that people are seeing have increased dramatically.
The Prime Minister is also seeing how Russia is finding new ways to try and undermine Moldova's stability.
We are seeing elements of hybrid war. We are seeing, for example, pro-Russian forces trying to destabilize the country politically through paid protests, which quickly subsided when the oligarchs that fled Moldova were put on sanctions lists and their money flows were restricted. We are seeing cyber attacks. We've had the biggest cyber attacks in 2022 in the history of our country, and we are seeing bomb threats.
At the same time, Transnistria remains a source of concern with the war still ongoing. Transnistria is a pro-Russian breakaway region, a narrow strip of land almost 200 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide between the Dniester River and Moldova's eastern border with Ukraine. It split from Moldova in 1992, but is not recognized as a sovereign state by the international community or indeed even by Russia.
We consider the situation in our separatist Transnistrian region fragile but stable, and we have always said that a lot of the situation in Moldova will depend on the evolution of the war in Ukraine. We see the brave Ukrainians being very resilient and fighting for the security not only of their country, but also for the security of Moldova and for wider for the values that we as Europeans profess.
The Prime Minister also says illegal migration through Moldova is increasing, using it as a transit country to the EU.